Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video that is something that I've been thinking about a little bit. I want this to be not a beginner's guide, but where do you start with indie makeup? If you're interested in indie makeup, if you've never tried indie makeup, or if you're interested in just finding some new indie brands, where do you start? This is going to be me talking about 10 favorite indie brands and my favorite palette from each brand. And if you haven't been here before, if this is your first video here, hello, my name is Angie. I am such a lover of beauty makeup, especially indie makeup and especially colorful things. And I want to show you more of what's available out there when it comes to indie makeup. So if you're interested in that, don't forget to subscribe because I do try to upload at least 5 videos a week. So I'm gonna take these within no particular order. I'm basically just gonna be digging into these. These are gonna be 10 different indie brands, 10 of my favorite indie brands, and I'm gonna show you my favorite palette, or maybe not even necessarily my favorite palette, but the palette that I would recommend from each brand if you were to try the brand for the first time, or if you already love the brand and wanted to try out another palette. So I'm just gonna take them as I see them in front of me, within no particular order. This is just the way that they are in front of me. So the first one I'm going to start with is Kaleidos, and this is the Kaleidos Futurism 3 Astro Pink. This palette is a 6-pan palette, and for a really long time this was my favorite palette from the brand. Since then they have released quite a few different things, but if I look at the things that they have available right now, I do think that this is still my favorite palette from Kaleidos. Kaleidos makes amazing eyeshadows, really high consistency, good mattes, good shimmers. They are different kind of formulas. You get sparkly ones, you get more metallic ones, sometimes you get duochromes or multichromes or shimmery sparkly shadows. They're just really high consistency when it comes to quality, and also the packaging is just absolutely stunning on this one, like how you close this one. This is a really nice color scheme as well, and it also gives you a peek into a bunch of their different formulas, which I think is super exciting and super nice, to be honest, because you're able to sample some of the best that the brand has to offer in this little 6-pan, and I just think that this is a beautiful palette. Of course, technically my favorite palette from Kaleidos is the one that I did together with Kaleidos, which is the Club Nebula palette, but it's no longer available, and I don't want to be picking my own things as my favorite, and this one is available. So if you were to start with Kaleidos and just wanted to try out something, maybe this could be a nice inspiring if you were wanting to take advantage of some Black Friday deals, because I will say the Kaleidos usually does not have any coupons or any deals or any sales except a couple of times a year. Black Friday is usually one of them. They usually have 20% off or something. So if you were wanting to try Kaleidos, that might be a good time. Another brand that I really love, and this is the thing, I really love Ace Beauty, but I love them even more since they reformulated. I always thought that they had really good color stories. This is the Classical Paradise. This is one of my most used eyeshadow palettes in my entire collection, and I have 200 palettes. This palette is a twist on the Warm Neutrals palette, and Ace Beauty did reformulate, and they actually sent me some of their reformulated palettes before they released them, and they were asking me if I could let them know how I feel about the formula, and I can tell you what I told them. This is an amazing formula. It is pigmented, blendable, just really buildable and wonderful, and I really love this color story because, like I said, this is a more experimental, brighter, bolder take on the Warm Neutral palette, and I feel like this is the kind of palette that would be perfect to start with because I feel like you would get a good use out of this both if you love neutrals and if you love colors, because like I said, this is one of my most used palettes in my collection because these red mattes are incredible. Also, this green matte here is so good. This pale yellow metallic, beautiful. These are just really solid shadows, high quality, and I use this palette a lot for those shades, and I really think that if you were wanting to try Ace Beauty, I feel like this could be a good place to start because of it being one of their smaller palettes and because of how much I know that I've gotten used out of this palette. I do have a code with Ace Beauty, and I do have a code with a bunch of these other brands as well, actually quite a few of these brands. So if you were wanting to shop some of these brands, I will leave my codes down below. Do make sure to use a code when you're shopping at indie brands. Most of them do have some kind of a discount code or affiliate program so that you can get some money off when you're shopping. And with that said, you don't have to use my code, just make sure to use a code when you're shopping from an indie brand. Most of them do have some kind of a code just so you can save some money when you're shopping from them. If you want to use my code, there's a bunch of different creators out there that have a bunch of different codes, but I will leave mine down below. Another brand that is one of my absolute favorite indie brands, which is also the brand that I am wearing on my eyes today. I am wearing, oh, I only have the sleeve here because I moved the palette. This is the So Strange palette by Unearthly. I will leave down the description box also what I have on my face today, and this look should already be live as a chat to get ready with me, and I will leave a link to that as well, so you'll find all the info in the description box. But if you were wanting to shop from Unearthly Cosmetics, and if you had never shopped from them before, I would recommend the Lure palette. Again, this is a palette that I think both color lovers and neutral lovers would really love. It is the perfect murky jewel tone, but still with a twist autumn like fall color scheme. It has 4 mattes that are really, really beautiful: yellow, orange, burgundy, and then a black. All really good quality, and then it has 5 duochromes. This is just a really, really good palette, and it really has high quality shadows in a nice color scheme, like I said, that will work both if you love colors or if you love neutrals, and also the kind of undertones and shades that will work really good together with other colors. If you want to make it even more brighter and bring in a brighter yellow, or if you want to make it more neutral and blend it up with the beige, these shades will work together with other shadows as well, and I really, really love this palette. And I think that this is still my favorite palette from Unearthly Cosmetics, and if you were wanting to try the brand, I think that this is where I would recommend you to start. Now we're getting into Nomad Cosmetics, and here is where I'm gonna be a little bit more biased towards what is my favorite palette of Nomad Cosmetics, and that is the new Cloud Forest palette. I just think they really did something with this palette. They did a color scheme that I haven't seen before, and that is a half almost bright neon mattes together with a foresty green, almost like more muted and more like a grounded color story. It is made to like look like a rainforest with like pops of tropical birds and flowers peeking through, and that is why it's set up like this. This is, according to me, the best palette that Nomad Cosmetics has ever done. This is the most inspiring palette that they've ever done to me. I love the quality. I love the duochromes and shimmers that are in here. I love the mix of different mattes with the greens and then the neons. And I really like this palette. This is my most used palette from Nomad as well. I've used this so many times, even though it's fairly new. I just find this so inspiring. And if you were looking to try Nomad, this one is really good. I will say, if you don't like colors at all, maybe try the Hudson Valley one instead. The fall palette that came out, it's a little bit more neutral leaning. But if you have any kind of interest at all in interesting and different color stories, this is the one. I'm gonna talk about Lunar Beauty next, and I feel like when it comes to Lunar Beauty, I think the palette I would recommend is the palette that is probably top 3 my favorite neutral palettes, and that is the Eternal Eclipse. Not only is this packaging goals, like look at this packaging, it is so stunning. It's just a beautiful, beautiful packaging. As I'm filming this, Manny has like, because this is Manny MUA's brand, he has like teased his like holiday release, and I haven't seen it as I'm filming this, and I'm so excited because this one is, of course, you can see the Aurora Borealis in the background, and I feel like he's teasing that again, so I'm wondering if it's gonna be another darker palette like this one. But this is a neutral palette that is very dark, very grungy, very dramatic, and a little bit more on the cool tone side without being fully gray. This is still browns and metallics, like metal colors, like bronzes, rose golds, pewter silvers, and then you have a metallic black and a really sparkly matte shadow over here that has sparkles in it, and you have 2 blues and a gray, and this is probably my most used neutral palette. I just think that this is beautiful, and this is to me an inspiring neutral palette. And if you only love neutrals, this is the perfect palette to add to your collection, because you will probably find a lot of shades here that are more darker and more darker, but they're like darker and more sooty and more dramatic than you find in regular neutral palettes. So this will probably be like a really good companion palette to other neutral palettes. Or if you're like me and you only like dramatic makeup, but every now and then you want to have a neutral palette, this is definitely the one. Also, these like metallic colors up here, just so beautiful. And yeah, this is my favorite palette from Lunar Beauty. This is really that really amazing quality that Lunar Beauty has in a very interesting take on neutral shades, and I would definitely recommend this one if you haven't tried the brand. Also, as I'm filming this, Nomad Cosmetics has just shown their next collection with palette and lip products. I haven't tried it as I'm filming this, but I'm super excited to be trying it out. But before trying that, I will say that I still think the Surge is my favorite Blend Money palette. Again, if you wanted to try Blend Money Cosmetics and you look at them and you feel like some of them are a little similar, because I do think that some of the palettes just released so far, they've all been like a twist on rainbow palettes, then I would definitely recommend this one, because this is the one that I feel is the most unique. So this is the Surge. I hope you can see when I do like this that these are neon shadows. I hope I'm able to show you in the swatches as well. So this is a rainbow palette with a twist, because there are more grungy, murky colors up here, and then you have neons at the bottom. But then you have the lighter one, the mid-tone one, and the really dark ones. And these are not blacks. This is just a really dark olive, a really dark like teal, a really dark purple, and on and on and on. But these are pastels, but they're like grungy, muted pastels. And then you have these more brighter metallics. This palette is just a really nice twist on a rainbow palette. So you're able to get a rainbow palette with a twist that's different, that you probably do not own in your collection, but at the same time you're able to try this amazing Blend Money matte formula that is just incredible. The shimmers are incredible too, but the mattes, some of the best mattes, like they're just so incredible. So I would definitely recommend to try this one if you've never tried the brand and you want to get something and you want to make sure that you're getting something that's not too similar to anything you've had before in your collection. Really like this one. Surge is still my favorite. Okay, when we're talking about Odins Eye, obviously in a way, I think that my palette is the best. I made this palette. This is the Hella palette. This is the palette that we did together. Mine is very well used. I just recently did another look with this on my channel. I have so many looks on this one. Just think that this is, of course, my favorite palette with the brights and the grunges and the greens and yellows. I love this one. But I'm gonna let you know about my second favorite palette from Odins Eye, in case you already got this one, or in case you want to try something totally different, or in case you want to get a slightly less biased opinion, because obviously I love the palette I created. And I would say that I think the best palette they have done is the Solmåne palette, the Solmåne 2. So this is the palette that came out after the Hella palette. This one just has incredible formulas, incredible colors to choose from. You have this more warm, toasty row in the bottom with this. This is my favorite type of like orange, or my favorite type of warm colors, a yellowy orange bright. I love that. I love oranges, but I love them to be this like almost leaning a little yellow. Just amazing. You have a matte black, and then you have purples and blues and teals and lavenders, and these are just so beautiful. So if you were looking to try Odins Eye, or if you're looking to buy more from Odins Eye, maybe you tried Odins Eye for the first time buying my palette, I would definitely recommend this one. And I also will say these two really do pair together really well. I've used them in more than one look on my channel even, I think, or maybe on Instagram. I'm not 100% sure. I just really love this palette. I think it's so beautiful. You have the metallics, you have the toppers, you have a duochrome, you have mattes. Just really beautiful quality, really beautiful color selection, and look at this packaging. Like, it's just so beautiful. Really recommend this one. And yeah, this is where I would start, like right now with Odins Eye. Maybe with this one, but you know, I'm a little bit biased. Next one is Glamlight, and I said that when I reviewed this palette. This is the Frosted Flakes palette. This is the collab that they did with Frosted Flakes. This is my favorite Glamlight palette. I think that they really did something with this collab. They were able to curate a color story that made sense for the collab with the blues and the oranges in the best quality that they've ever made. Like, they really did something with this one. And I also think the Michaela, the new collab, has that amazing formula. And I really just like the colors that they chose. These are really sparkly and intense and wonderful. It goes from light to dark, and I just had the best time with this palette. I think they really nailed the concept. I think they nailed the color story, the quality, and actually a color story and not a rainbow, and it's a little bit smaller. And I would say if you wanted to try Glamlight, I would say try this one. It's not as expensive as some of their bigger palettes, and you will still be able to sample their quality and the kind of fun things that they do with their collabs without committing to a really big palette. So this is where I would start if you wanted to start with Glamlight. Let's end with talking about two brands that are situated in Europe, because I realize that sometimes we can get a little bit centric about the brands that are in the US, and I'm guilty of that as well. If you didn't know, I am Swedish, even though I'm right now living in Texas. But I wanted to mention two indie brands that are available in Europe and that I've tried quite a few things from, because I'm not going to mention brands that like either they have like two palettes or maybe I've only tried one palette. These are brands that I've tried multiple palettes from, that I have a grasp about the brand. I've tried most of the things that they're offering, and they actually have quite a few things to offer for. Like, if it's a brand that has two palettes, it's not that hard to know where to start. Do you like this color story? Do you like that color story? I'm trying to bring up brands that have multiple palettes or a bigger selection of things. So now we're getting into Lethal Cosmetics. Lethal Cosmetics is a Berlin-based indie brand, and this is the Nightflower palette. This is a pre-made palette that does have, like, you can pull them out on the side, you can buy this as singles, but this is the pre-made palette, and this is, according to me, the best palette that they have made. I love the looks that I have done with this one. I just really thought if I have dedicated videos to any of these palettes, you know what, I will link them down below in case you want to see them in action, because I think I have dedicated videos to pretty much everything that I'm mentioning, and I really love the look that I filmed with this one. I think this is the best quality that Lethal Cosmetics has ever done. I feel like this is the best color story that they've ever done. I feel like they really nailed the quality, and I really like how all of this plays together. Someone says that it almost looks like it's underwater themed, and now I can't unsee it in the most positive way. If you were trying to look into Lethal Cosmetics, like where do you start, I would say this one, because I feel like this is the best palette that they have made. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Beauty Bay. Beauty Bay is a big brand. This is not like a smaller indie brand, but so are neither some of these other things that I've talked about. But this is maybe the most least indie brand-ish of the brands I'm talking about, but this is still an individual brand. They're not owned by a parent company, and they do have their own palettes, and I wanted to talk about them because not only are they good quality, they have a bunch of palettes to choose from, they're also very affordable. So if you wanted to try something that's maybe a little bit more on the affordable side, they're not as playful as some of these other that we're going to talk about here, but maybe you are balling a budget, maybe you just want to get something fun, I would recommend you to check out Beauty Bay. And the palette that I would recommend you to get first, or only if you wanted to try the brand, is the Earthy 16 pan palette. I've tried quite a few Beauty Bay palettes, and this one is permanent. So this is the green tone palette that they have. They have this in a 9 pan as well, and they also have this in a super big one, like 40 or something. Nobody needs that. Don't get the 40 pan palette. You don't need that. Put that thing down. You don't need that. If you wanted to get an even smaller one, maybe get the 9 pan, but I will say the 16 pan has this beautiful composition of light to dark in shimmers and mattes, warm and cool tone, and also a couple of shades thrown in here. There are a little bit of a twist, something that's just a little bit different from what we usually see in green palettes, which is fairly cool to see in a palette that's as affordable as this one. So you have this really sagey one that's called Fresh. You have this like bright, almost neon mint. You have this really bright like grass kermit green. You have this olivey green that's absolutely stunning, and then you have some of these grungy tones down here. Just really has a really good variety for only being a monochromatic palette. So if you were looking for a green monochromatic palette, or if you had been looking to try the Beauty Bay brand, I would say start here. It's really good. If you prefer blues and purples, they also have the Midnight in 16. Also recommended. And they also have, if you like reds and berries, they have the 16 berries, also really good. But I think that this one is the best one because this one has the best range or the best color story out of the monochromatic palettes. So that was it for this video. Please let me know what you think about this concept. Would you like me to do this with other kind of brands as well? Mainstream brands? I don't know how many mainstream. Would you like where can you start? Maybe I can do with brands. Like where can you start with ColourPop? Where can you start with, I don't know, maybe other indie products like blushes and highlighters and lip. Like I'm open for suggestions. I'm trying to go through my collection and talk about makeup without buying more makeup. And maybe you own some of these palettes and you were reminded that maybe you should pick them out of your collection, or maybe you were looking to just add that one palette now when Black Friday is coming in, and maybe this could be a little bit helpful. Or maybe you looked at this video and you realized, you know what, I don't need any of this, I own these kind of colors already. Then in that way, this video was also helpful. I hope you're having an absolutely amazing day. Do not forget to check the description box for more info, and I will see you again tomorrow for a new video. Bye!